Hi, hey, hello. It is I, the real main event, the rogue soldier, but more importantly than that, I am the essential John L. Crossfire, and today you are going to be caught in the crossfire, but we will be caught in conversation. So without further ado, let's do this. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 7 of the podcast. The sound sounds super clear in my ears. The sound. Say that 5 times fast. The sound sounds super clear in my ears, so hopefully when I record this, it'll sound just as good in yours. I hope everyone is, still masking up and maintaining social distancing as required. The lovely lady at the coffee shop did put an extra shot of caffeine in my coffee this morning, so this is either going to go one of two ways, so let's find out. I was meant to be covering MLW's Battle Riot 3 this week, as I, along with many others, were actually under the impression that it was airing the same day that it was taped. But it actually won't air until July 24th in the US on cable, so hopefully you'll be up on YouTube around that same time, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I can also avoid seeing spoilers until I've seen it. And WWE's Money in the Bank pay-per-view, I thought was next weekend. It's actually this weekend, so I'm not sure if I'll actually be covering that or not. If I do, it'll most likely just be me touching on what I deem the highlights, so to speak, since Impact has their Slammiversary pay-per-view, and of course, Warrior Wrestling is also on the same day as that, which I plan on doing a recap-ish, as I like to say, of Warrior Wrestling. Upon discovering that there was a guy on the new season of Beauty and the Geek Australia that's absolutely obsessed with professional wrestling, myself and Mrs. Crossfire, we decided to check it out, and we've absolutely watched the heck out of the first few episodes. A lot better than last year's. It's a bit trash TV at times, but this year's actually pretty decent. I'd recommend giving it a watch. Super keen for the episode in which PWA pops up on there. I mean, I've been saying for the last 3 to 4 years that, in my opinion, they are the top dogs in Australian professional wrestling, so it is super cool to see them get some, mainstream exposure, if you will. Marvel have released the official trailer for the What If animated series that starts on August 11, and holy shit, this was probably what I was most excited for when they first announced what was to come in all of Phase 4. And just, wow, even just the little teasers and the trailer alone has me kind of just losing my marbles. I feel it's definitely going to live up to the hype and will probably end up being my favorite Marvel series on Disney Plus out of the ones that are announced so far, if it does indeed live up to said hype. Now, obviously, since they have released the casting for the She-Hulk series that's to come, I have got pretty excited for that, as I also mentioned on the pod before, so let's see how we go. But I am fanboying super, super hard, no pun intended, for the possibilities to come from the What If series. Like, they've already announced the first 6 episodes, which will be all of season 1, but there is so much that they could do with it. Like, you could quite easily make a good chunk of seasons out of it if they wanted to. The possibilities are, pretty much infinite, endless. Whether they take aspects, from the comics, make something up entirely of, new stories and new scenarios, or they just take stuff, from the existing MCU itself, of course, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, one I'd like to see, and we saw in Endgame that, Captain America is indeed worthy of wielding Mjolnir. I believe that's how you pronounce it. But you take that scene from Avengers Age of Ultron, right, where they're all trying to lift Mjolnir, or Meow Meow, as Darcy, Kat Dennings' character, says, of course, referring again to Thor's hammer. But you could almost do a whole season of what if insert character's name here was worthy, like just from that scene alone. Like, that's just as an example. Like, what if Black Widow was worthy? What if Hulk was worthy? What if Iron Man was worthy? Et cetera, et cetera. Imagine if Hawkeye, who's slept on a lot of the time as an Avenger, all of a sudden was worthy. Like, they'd look at him a lot differently, right? And they have released a separate little trailer for the first episode of this What If series, which is going to be Agent Carter, of course, Peggy Carter, the love of Steve Rogers, one Captain America, where she becomes a version of Cap herself. So that's pretty sick. Again, super hype in general for that. And super hype in general for the series, as I've said like 5 or 6 times now. And the reason for that is not only, you look at the possible what-if scenarios, but 90% of the characters will still be voiced by the same actors that, played those characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU. I believe Iron Man and Captain America are the only two that have actually changed, but of course that's due to, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr.'s contracts ending with Marvel after the conclusion of Avengers Endgame. I'm really looking forward to when we get to the Black Panther episode, because of course the late Chadwick Boseman, who did portray the Black Panther himself, King T'Challa, actually recorded audio for this, and it will end up being what was his final performance before he lost his unfortunate battle with cancer. So I'm super, super keen for that. And, it's good to see that even after, the sad, unfortunate passing of Chadwick, that his legacy not only will continue to move on, but it's still being added to. As I said, this is going to be the final thing, but it's a nice little, hoorah sort of thing. And on the same, subject for Marvel, the finale to Loki, obviously I'm recording this Thursday afternoon, the finale to Loki was just both wow and WTF, what the fuck at the same time. No spoilers to those that haven't watched it, and they do intend on doing it. But the fact that they ended it like that, it's not okay. And if you've watched it, you'll know what I mean. No, it's not okay. You can't just end it there. Give me more. And I understand, ending it on a cliffhanger because, spoiler alert, Season 2 was confirmed in the post-credits scene. So with that being said, Season 2 of Loki, come at me. The AEW TNT Championship now has a white strap, and I, for one, think it actually looks the best that it's ever looked. That could actually be a good idea for an episode in itself, actually. I mean, hashtag belt porn. I mean, I love me some sexy championship belts. Damn it, pal, we don't call them belts here. Sorry, Mr. McMahon. Good shit and all that jazz. That's the caffeine talking there. Anyway, over on SmackDown, lay the smacketh down. Over on SmackDown, Cesaro got busted open, and it was, obviously, accidents happen, but this is still a fairly big deal when you look at the current WWE product. Of course, blood, and obviously blading has been banned from a long time. So seeing someone get hard-weighted, it's like, oh shit, there's blood. This is real, damn it. It's still real to me, damn it. Obviously, it's highly unlikely that in this day and age of the WWE product that it's going to happen, but I would love to see they turn this into a story and you have Cesaro versus Seth Rollins in a first blood match. Again, the chances of that ever happening are slim and none, but would be pretty cool. Happy accident sort of thing. But here we are. On 205 Live, Grayson Waller took his first L against Odyssey Jones. He's a big man. Of course, Odyssey Jones is being built up because he will be a part of the NXT Breakout Tournament. And Grayson Waller still looked very, very strong in defeat, though. Gotta look strong, brother. The ending to Young Rock, again, no spoilers for those that didn't say it, but some of the things, he mentions about, his dad made me tear up like a mofo. Ring of Honor, they still have their tapings out of sync with their live pay-per-views. I will be covering the most recent pay-per-view they had in the main portion of the show. It's probably going to be the show title unless I somehow manage to think of something clever in the next hour or so. But anyway, I know it's not a big deal, but I also know that I'm not alone when I say that it is somewhat annoying when stuff like this happens. Like, they're showing stuff that happened before the pay-per-view, but they're airing it afterwards, and they're still presenting it as the pay-per-view hasn't happened yet. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, Impact did the same thing with EC3. He actually won the Impact World title at the tapings that aired before the Slammiversary pay-per-view, and obviously it didn't air until after, but at the actual pay-per-view, like, they were chanting next world champ because they knew it was coming. But again, at least they still acted like it was, it was coming up. Like, I guess, it still made sense. And, no love lost against Ring of Honor, obviously, but just that little inconsistency can turn a lot of fans away, especially when titles do change hands at the pay-per-view. And obviously, now former champions still have them on TV. But, again, it is still being presented as before the pay-per-view, but the inconsistency is still there nonetheless. And if you made sense of that rant, then kudos to you. But yeah, just have it flow. Let it just, I don't know if that's my OCD talking or what, but it just bugs me, that's all. Over on Raw, Ricochet and John Morrison, Johnny Drip, the most moist sea superstar. Mrs. Crossfire is going to hate me when she listens back to this episode and hears me say that word. Everyone just send that to her. Just send her moist. Please don't actually. I can almost feel her staring at me right now. Yeah, Ricochet and John Morrison had an absolute banger of a match. This time it was a Falls Count Anywhere match. Nice little touch. They're actually trying to make it make sense. Of course, the previous two matches have ended in a count out with John Morrison winning the last one, and then they had a draw in the previous one before even that. But yeah, Ricochet picks up the win here with a nice splash from the top rope to the floor through a ladder. Of course, that's building up to the Money in the Bank ladder match, which again will take place a day after this podcast airs, not the week after. My bad. Some good comedy thrown in here in the match as well with The Miz in his wheelchair. Just like, in previous weeks, as I've stated, I love me some good comedy. On NXT this week, Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis were so close to kissing, but that damn Candice LeRae broke it up just in the nick of time. Excellent storytelling there. I can't wait to see more Index in the future, as I've mentioned here in the past as well. Karrion Kross choked out Samoa Joe after Karrion Kross successfully defended the NXT Championship against Johnny Gargano in the NXT main event, further teasing a return to the ring for Joe, as well as they had separate teasers during the night again for Adam Cole and Pete Dunne. As I said before, Pete Dunne versus Joe is one that I really want. But the big one that stood out, and it came kind of out of nowhere, was the tease of Samoa Joe versus Bronson Reed, the colossal Bronson Reed, of course, our fellow Aussie boy here. So hell yes to that. It's good to see that even after losing the North American Championship, Bronson's still in the spotlight. He actually had a segment with Adam Cole leading into the stare down with Samoa Joe, so they've obviously got some big plans here. Like Bronson said himself in his promo that Cole is the golden boy of NXT, so it's a pretty big deal. The song of the week this week is Mission Statement by Stone Sour. Now, this song was stuck in my head a couple of nights ago upon recording this, and I had an absolute mind blank. I was at work, doing what I do, and I literally had to Google the lyrics because I was trying to, search the song on my Spotify so I could listen to it. But for the life of me, I couldn't think of the title. And then I felt like an absolute dumbass once Googling the lyrics because it was so damn obvious. But here we are. So yes, Mission Statement by Stone Sour. I'm just obsessed with anything and everything Corey Taylor. I know he's very a controversial figure, with that genre of music. People either seem to love him or hate him. There's no in between. I love him. The song slaps super hard. Again, for the third time, that is Mission Statement by Stone Sour. That's actually is a little fun fact where I stole the name for my Crossfire promos. Of course, my promos were mission statements, and then the ones where I was just speaking were briefings. But yes, little fun fact. In the wrestling news this week, WWE has seemingly pulled the upcoming Stone Cold Steve Austin interview, of course, the Broken Skull sessions that Stone Cold does now instead of doing his regular podcast. But they've just filmed one with Kevin Nash. They actually put out a video, promoting it when Nash was, trying to guess as many NWO members as he could in, I think it was 30 seconds or a minute. I think it was 30 seconds. But yeah, they've just decided to pull that all of a sudden, along with the Nexus Untold documentary special and the Lex Luger Icons documentary. Now, I'm hoping that they have just decided to postpone these rather than straight up cancelling them. But there's not really any update on, either which way to these, whether it is being postponed or whether it's being cancelled as of yet while recording this. But I was really looking forward to all of these, especially the Nexus one. Like everyone, Nexus only came around for a short time, but it's a very memorable period of time, at least in my opinion. WWE superstar Naomi has unfortunately decided to leave social media after some trolls, I'm not going to call them fans, sent some not nice things her way, so to speak. I'm not going to repeat them here. They don't need to get any more, airtime or recognition, I guess. But yeah, her husband, Jimmy Uso, of course, is dealing with some issues. He's just got his 3rd or 4th DUI in the last year. So I just want to send, a shout out, well wishes. Obviously, they're probably never going to hear this, but thinking of Jimmy Uso, of course, Jonathan Fatu, and Naomi, Trinity, call it what you want. Wish them and their, family just nothing but the best. The match of the week this week. As I'm recording this, it is NWO week. By the time this airs, granted, it will be coming to a close. But nonetheless, this week's match of the week is DDP, of course, that's Diamond Dallas Page. Bro. Diamond Dallas Page versus, oh yeah, it's the Macho Man, Randy Savage, yeah. Elizabeth, down that aisle. That really hurts. DDP versus Macho Man Randy Savage at Spring Stampede 1997. This match was in the midst of DDP feuding with the NWO after refusing to join, which of course he's done a few times. And of course, who can forget that epic fake out where he actually put the shirt on. Crowd cheers, bang, Diamond Cutter on Scott Hall, low bridges Nash, and he's standing in the crowd, still with the NWO shirt on because he didn't have time to take off because he's like running, but super iconic moment. But yes, Macho Man well and truly represents the NWO here in this match, and this match, a lot will say, including DDP himself, was kind of the coming out party for DDP. He was over as fuck, and by the end of it, he hits the Diamond Cutter on DDP. Spoiler alert: 1, 2, 3. DDP gets the win. It's just an awesome match. Like I showed Teak a couple of the matches that these guys had in their respective feud that spanned over a few months. But she even said herself, she's like, surely DDP's got to win this match, right? Like, he's over as fuck right here. And indeed he was. Like, seriously, go watch this match. DDP versus Macho Man Randy Savage at Spring Stampede 1997. Dare I say, this match was just too sweet. See what I did there? Of course you did. Go check that match out. This will bring me to the main portion of the show. This was a 9-match card, 11 all up if you count the pre-show. So it was 4 hours all up. I'm hoping Ring of Honor don't make a habit out of that. Like, that's been another gripe that I have had with them. And a lot of people do, is that sometimes their shows go for too long. But given that it was their first one back with fans, it definitely didn't feel like 4 hours. Like, I woke up early, I watched the pre-show, I watched the full show, I marked out the entire goddamn time. Absolutely fantastic show, top to bottom. So, if you start with hour 1, which is free on YouTube, and I believe it's free on the Fight app as well. So it's hour 1, aka the pre-show. Ray Horus versus the demonic Flamita. Now, this was probably the perfect match for Ring of Honor to have for to be the first match, in front of fans after a year and a half. Ray Horus jumpstarts the match, getting a bit of, revenge, so to speak, on Flamita. Flamita took control after, a big flurry from Ray Horus with a dropkick in midair. Of course, as I said, midair, catches Horus as he comes off the top rope. Lots of back and forth, especially towards the end. I love the little touch of Flamita as the heel, having his frog splash counted because he took too long on the top rope because he was distracted, quote unquote, by the boos because, they've been a year and a half without fans. All of a sudden, there's fans there, they're showing displeasure. So it's rattling him. So it's very good psychology there. And they played it off very well, I feel, in that aspect. Ray Horus gets the win via pinfall after a surprise code red out of nowhere, aka a sunset bomb. There's a good little promo segment here by Kenny King, hyping up both himself and his LFI, La Faction Ingannable brethren, and of course, hyping up both the TV title match and the world title matches, respectively, on the main card. Matt Taven comes out to cut a promo, do a little talk show segment action thing. He gets interrupted by Vincent and the Righteous, of course, Vincent's cult, or in the words of Dominic Toretto, family. Of course, the Righteous is Bateman, Dutch, and Vita Von Star. three very, very, very dangerous individuals in a kayfabe sense, probably in real life too. Dutch is a big boy. Taven tells Vincent that he wants more than just a match, and he's willing to do anything to get it, including putting his career on the line. Win, lose, or draw, it will be his last match in Ring of Honor. And then Vincent, of course, says, he doesn't care whether Taven comes or whether Taven goes. Vincent only wants one thing, and he, of course, goads Matt Taven into putting Matt Taven's world title shot on the line. So Matt Taven isn't leaving Ring of Honor, but at Glory by Honor Night 2 in August, the main event will be a steel cage match between Matt Taven and Vincent, with Taven's shot on the line, as I just said, and the Righteous will be completely banned from ringside. Very good there. Like, a lot of the time, they have cage matches to keep people out, and they still show up anyway. So having them, kayfabe banned, it's very, very smart. Taven tries to attack Vincent, but the Righteous obviously outnumber him. Taven gets beat down, and he gets, quote-unquote, injured. PCO and Danhausen, no swearing, versus the Bouncers, of course, the Beer City Bruiser, and Brian Malone's. There's that caffeine I was talking about, y'all. It's a very, very good tag match. Honestly, it was a lot better than I was expecting, and it's nothing on the teams. I just wasn't sure how the two teams would mesh, sort of thing. But lots of great action, and most importantly, from my soft spot, was character work. There's a spot where Danhausen tries to chokeslam Beer City Bruiser, very Hurricane Helms style comedy there. PCO comes in and they hit a double, I'm doing, bunny ears, but they hit a double chokeslam, wink wink. Danhausen celebrates because he thinks he's done it all by himself before having the realization that PCO, quote unquote, helped. And then PCO malfunctions. Of course, the whole gimmick is he's like a Frankenstein's monster type, gimmick. He runs on a car battery. So PCO malfunction. He tries to attack Danhausen while malfunctioning. Danhausen harnesses this and kind of, gets PCO to follow him, and he keeps dodging out of the way to the best of his ability. And, PCO's taking out Beer City Bruiser and Brian Malone because, Danhausen's smart. He's using his brain. PCO pins Beer City Bruiser in the middle of the ring with a PCO salt, big Van Vader style moonsault of that. But then we get a face-off between PCO and my boy Sledge. Sledge, I don't know if he's turning heel or if it's just about respect, but he gets right up in PCO's face and he says, "I want you in a singles match." And I'm just like, hell yes, that excites me greatly. This will take us to the main show, where match 1, we had PJ Black and the Mecca, that's MECCA, Brian Johnson, versus them boys, Mark and Jay, the Briscoe brothers. Johnson cuts a big heel promo. Lots of cheap heat here, but it's great. Gets the crowd, gets the fans all fired up. The Briscoes' music hits, and of course the fans go absolutely wild. A good little opener here. Everyone got a little bit of shine. Briscoes get the win with their trademark Jay Driller / Froggy elbow combo. Jay Briscoe pinned PJ Black off of that. Kind of a coming out party for the Briscoes now that they've reformed as a tag team after what seems almost like a year-long build-up of them trying to reform and then arguing, trying to reform and arguing. Got the fans hot from the first match, which is what you want. I'm loving that the Briscoes are solidifying that they are a tag team again by going back to their old school theme. Seem to be using that full time. Reach for the sky, boy. Pew. That actually used to be my ringtone. Another fun fact from John Crossfire. Match number 2. We have EC3. Shouldn't this be the third match because it's EC3? No? Just me? Alright. EC3 versus the mercenary Flip Gordon. Fun fact, I was calling myself Essential before EC3 even left WWE, so I'm going to say that he stole the whole Essential character gimmick off me. I jest, but still, I did it first. There's a nice little chop fest here about the start, midway point of the match. EC3 absolutely cut up as always, absolutely jacked, which is good to see because he did have a battle with COVID, so it's good to see that he's got himself, back into shape after suffering for a little bit. Flip Gordon takes out EC3's knee, EC3 makes a comeback, does a few power moves while selling the knee. EC3 hits a version of the Angel's Wings, of course a butterfly face buster made famous by the fallen angel himself, Christopher Daniels. And then he makes Flip Gordon submit with a straight jacket crossface, which that's great. That's a great little touch in itself because, EC3 calls himself the psycho boy, whatever. So straight jacket, very fitting for his character, very smart there. He calls it finding his purpose, or just the purpose, and making them tap out is finding his purpose, I guess. I think that makes sense. Anyway, EC3 extends his hand for the Code of Honor, which, of course, the sportsman aspect of Ring of Honor. But Flip, instead of shaking EC3's hands, slaps him 3 times in the face. See, look, 3. That makes sense. And then he leaves. EC3's meant to be the babyface here, but for whatever reason, the fans were chanting, "Thank you, Flip." So it'll be interesting to see where we go with that. Does EC3 turn? Do they stay the course? Stay tuned. Match number 3 was the Ring of Honor World 6-Man Tag Team Championships. You had the team of the Mile High Magnum Dak Draper, Eli Isom, and Dalton Castle versus the current champion Shane Taylor Promotions, of course, Shane Taylor himself, and SOS, the Soldiers of Savagery, Moses and Khan. There's dissension between Dak Draper and Eli Isom from the get-go. Eli Isom interrupts Dak Draper's entrance. Of course, these two have been feuding, and then Dalton Castle came and kicked them both in the plums, if you will, which was the whole story of Dalton asking this tag match in the first place, because it was like, why did he want the tag match after he's, cheap shotted them both? But here we go. Dak Draper did wear his version of matching gear with Dalton Castle, which I actually did touch on commentary, which I thought was nice, because he is, obviously more of the heel between himself and Eli Isom. Dalton Castle did still get cheers in his entrance despite being presented as a heel on TV. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. Again, now that fans are back, much like the EC3 aspect. He did start to get booed during the actual match because of his antics, though, so maybe they will stay the course. But again, at the same time, that could have also been due to how over Shane Taylor Promotions is. I always say that, I've said this to my family and friends, yada, yada, yada. Dalton Castle, in my opinion, is the Jack Black of professional wrestling. Like, the dude just spews charisma, even when he's not trying. Shane Taylor Promotions has an absolute banger of a theme song, by the way. Lots of great character work by Dalton Castle, unsurprisingly. Shane Taylor has absolutely none of it. Hits him with a big right hand, almost knocks him out, like 30 seconds into the match. Castle tags Eli Isom. The match kicks off properly. Team Castle actually controls the pace. They actually show some decent cohesiveness, but it's the whole whatever you can do, I can do better than you thing. Semi trying to outdo each other over and over again. But then dissension starts when Eli Isom goes for a cover. He tries to pin one of the members of Shane Taylor Promotions, but Dalton Castle gets in the ring and he's like, "No, I didn't tell you to pin him yet." And then, they do their thing. Dak Draper accidentally hits Eli Isom, and of course, it all starts to break down from there. Dak Draper then starts to regain some momentum for Team Castle, goes for a pin, but unbeknownst to him, Shane Taylor Promotions did have a blind tag with Shane Taylor himself, so Dak Draper was pinning the illegal man. Eli Isom comes in, hits a big air raid crash on Shane Taylor, which was super, super impressive. Eli Isom goes to the top rope, but Dalton Castle cuts him off again, saying, "No, get down from there, yada, yada, yada." They have the, generic tag team spot. Everyone gets their shit in. You hit your finisher. You hit your finisher. Everyone gets a finisher. Fucking Oprah Winfrey over here. And then Shane Taylor Promotions picks up the win after Shane Taylor himself pins Dak Draper after hitting Welcome to the Land, which, of course, it's like his Rikishi driver finisher. I did thoroughly enjoy this match. I enjoyed the constant storytelling, getting Dalton Castle's new character over, while not taking away from anyone else in the match. Match number 4 was a last man standing match between the last real man Silas Young and Josh the Goods Woods. Josh Woods attacks Silas Young Josh Woods attacks Silas Young right at the beginning of Silas's entrance, so the match just kicks off straight away without either man getting a proper entrance. A nice little touch, though, after what Silas has put Woods through. Silas tries to introduce a table early on, but it's not to be. I do love there was a little touch here. Silas Young put a ladder out from under the ring, and the commentary team explains that the reason those ladders are there are in case of an emergency with the lighting rigs, which I loved because there's always the joke of why is there so much stuff magically under a wrestling ring? Well, now I know why the ladders are there at least. Josh Woods introduces a table of his own, gets the fans solidly behind him, but Silas Young spears Josh Woods through that table. There was a nice snug forearm exchange here between the two. They were beating the crap out of each other, or at least it looked that way anyway, so good job to both of them. Josh Woods fills the ring with chairs and a nice little nod to Terry Funk, and the commentators even sent their well wishes to Terry Funk. And of course, we here at Court and Conversation want to wish the Funker nothing but, the best as well. Apparently he is in, care. He's having his good days and he's having his bad days, so much love to Terry Funk. We hope you're doing all good. There's a sick spot to finish this where Josh Woods German suplexes Silas Young off the side of the ring apron, putting both Silas and himself through two tables which were set up next to each other. It looks like it's going to be a draw, but just at the last second, Woods barely gets to his feet, picks up the win, making the score between these two overall 2-1. One would assume that this is the end of their feud, but again, can't make an ass out of you and me. Time will tell. Quinn McKay enters the trainer's room, the doctor's room, the paramedics room, whatever you want to call it. She interviews Matt Taven. Matt Taven, who is getting medical attention from the assault in the pre-show. Everyone's wondering if he still wants to compete in the cage match against Vincent after that, because the Righteous have promised to keep beating him down until then. And he says that yes, he will be there no matter what the Righteous puts him through. Nice little defining babyface moment there. Match number 5 was Jay Lethal versus Brody King. Now, this was the first time these two had ever gone one-on-one, and commentary were constantly driving that point home, which is good. It's the first time ever. They're two big stars. Why not make a point of it? The match starts off hot. Jay Lethal, straight out the gate, hits his lethal injection finisher, which, of course, is the handspring cutter, ace crusher, RKO, whatever you want to call it. But Brody King kicks out at 1. Brody King rolls out of the ring. Lethal hits 4. That's right, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 suicide dives, tope suicidas. Brody King still doesn't leave his feet. But Lethal hits a big baseball slide dropkick to Brody King's face, but instead of knocking Brody down, all it does is wake Brody up. And this is where Brody takes over. They're really getting over that Brody King is, he's a different man, so to speak, since being screwed out of the Ring of Honor World Championship back at Final Battle, and even more so since, of course, forming the team of Violence Unlimited, which he is the leader of. They're building him up well and truly as a monster, and Brody King may low-key have the most devastating chops in all of professional wrestling today. Just fucking brutal. Lethal does try to make a comeback, obviously showing that babyface resilience, but gets cut off every time, gets overpowered, and it was almost just a competitive squash here. Brody King hit a big Death Valley driver to Jay Lethal on the ring apron. Lethal was kind of out on his feet. Brody hits his Gonzo Bomb finisher, which is, of course, the big lifting gut wrench into the spike pile driver. Then Brody King yells out, quote, "This motherfucker is dead," unquote. Then he hits a second Gonzo Bomb just to drive the message home. No pun intended. It's a pile driver. He drives his message home even further. Brody pins Lethal after that second Gonzo Bomb. And then while Lethal is unconscious in the ring, Brody King shows respect by shaking hands with an unconscious Jay Lethal. And the commentators, they did what they should have done. They really, really drive home the fact that it was such an impressive victory over the world champion Jay Lethal as it is, let alone the fashion that he did it in, and you really can't argue with that. Match number 6, and this might have been my favourite all-round match from the entire pay-per-view, but it was the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. Mike Bennett challenged the current champion, the Octopus, Jonathan Gresham. Jonathan Gresham is on a 10-match winning streak, all by submission, and all different submissions at that. And as I've stated before, the Pure rules are actually my favourite rules, so maybe I'm biased with saying it was my favourite match, but of course, the rules of that are each competitor are allowed 3 rope breaks each. When/if they are exhausted, you can be pinned or submitted while tangled in the ropes. 1 closed fist is allowed. You will be issued a warning, but after that's exhausted, it's an instant disqualification for the closed fist. If it goes to a time limit draw, it will be a judge's decision, very MMA-like there. And there's also no champion's advantage when it comes to the Pure title. You can lose the title by disqualification or countout. In general, these Pure matches, they are very technical based, which is another reason why I love them. And back to the actual match itself, former Ring of Honor owner Carrie Silken is on commentary. Of course, Carrie's still a big fixture in Ring of Honor nonetheless, despite, not being the owner for about, 10 years or so now. In a nice little twist, Jonathan Gresham is actually the first to use one of his rope breaks. And of course, the story here was that Gresham was doubting Bennett's ability to be in the Pure division. So a nice little touch there. There's a nice little spot on the outside where Mike Bennett is tapping out to a Kimura lock, but obviously this match cannot end on the outside. Well, it can if it's a count out, but it can't, has to be pinfall submission in the ring otherwise. But yeah, Gresham rolls Bennett back into the ring, forcing him to use what was Bennett's second rope break at that point in the match. The pace really picked up around the 10-minute mark. Both men only had 1 rope break left at that point. The fans were solidly behind Gresham here. Bennett used his final rope break right on the 15-minute mark. Bennett makes a comeback, hits his trademark pile driver, but right on the 3 count, literally it was so damn close, Gresham gets his final rope break. And then eventually Gresham retains the title via submission with a modified half Indian Deathlock at 19 minutes and 21 seconds. Both men adhere to the Code of Honor. Very, very, very good match. Mwah. Chef's kiss. Backstage, Rhett Titus of the Foundation, of course, one of Gresham's partners, tells Gresham that with Tracy Williams still not cleared to compete, of course I covered that a few weeks ago, Tracy was hit by a car, still sending out all my well wishes to Tracy, and with Lethal being kayfabe injured by Brody King, Gresham has to step up and be Rhett Titus' tag partner to defend the tag titles, otherwise they have to forfeit the titles. And this is literally straight off the back, as I just said, of Gresham having a near 20-minute absolute war battle with Mike Bennett. The Ring of Honor board, in kayfabe, pushes a match forward to give Gresham time to recover. So instead of having the tag title match here, match 7 becomes the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. Of course, member of Violence Unlimited, Tony Deppen, defends against LFI member in Dragon Lee. King King, Kenny King, is on commentary. This was a very fast-paced Super Indie style match. Deppen hit a suicide dive into a Canadian destroyer on the floor very early on in the matchup. Lots of back and forth, no selling. Then they do a double down after an explosive pocket of offense. Chop Chop City, Thigh Slap City at that, which seemed semi-unnecessary given how snug some of the offense actually was, and again, at least it looked that way. We have a new Ring of Honor television champion in Dragon Lee after a running knee strike to the back of the head, which Dragon Lee calls the Incinerator. Match number 8 was the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship, which was a fight without honor, which of course is just a no-holds-barred match, but it's gimmicked because it's Ring of Honor and they're all against, all about, shaking hands, sportsmanship, yada, yada, yada. So you got Violence Unlimited, of course, the pairing of Chris Dickinson and Homicide versus the Foundation, as I've mentioned just before, in Rhett Titus and now Jonathan Gresham, given that Tracy Williams is legitimately injured and Jay Lethal was kayfabe injured. The match itself started off with a brawl from the get-go, hence the match type. Rhett Titus put Homicide through the timekeeper's table. I believe it was a Falcon's Arrow or a Michinoku driver. Of course, the Falcon's Arrow was a version of the Michinoku driver, but yeah. Chris Dickinson preyed on an exhausted Jonathan Gresham, which was great storytelling there. There was a spot in the match where Homicide screamed, "I'm going to stab this motherfucker," and pulled out a fork on Jonathan Gresham, but luckily Rhett Titus comes and cuts Homicide off again. No pun intended. Rhett Titus got sent flying through a table with a crucifix bomb off the top rope by Chris Dickinson. Homicide hit the vertebraker, Gringo Killer, Cop Killer, whatever you want to call it, on Jonathan Gresham and pinned him for the win. Congratulations to Violence Unlimited on becoming the new Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. Nice little touch there, taking out the injured man in Jonathan Gresham. They announced the brackets for the upcoming Ring of Honor Women's World Championship tournament. They have announced that Lenny Leonard will be a special guest commentator for that, so that gets me very excited. He is someone that I have studied while doing commentary myself. Vita Von Starr, as I previously mentioned of The Righteous before, she was meant to be in this tournament, but she broke the rules, so her replacement was, drum roll please, the Hot Mess, Chelsea Green, and her new theme by Downstate is an absolute banger. So very, 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 very keen to see where that goes. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Chelsea Green was to win this. My picks were actually Allysin Kay and Willow, but I believe they're actually facing off against each other in the first round. So, again, my predictions don't mean shit. I predicted Flamita to win Survival of the Fittest. He was the first eliminated in the final. The two I picked to be in the finals are facing off in the first round of this tournament, so what do I know? But match number 9, or 11, again, if you're counting the pre-show, was the main event for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. It was Bandito versus Roosh. The crowd was super hot for this main event. Roosh started off hot. They did play on how he's beaten Dalton Castle in the past in 6 seconds, but of course, Bandito kicked out of the offense. The referee, being a world title match, was very, very lenient with the rules, so Roosh got some leeway when bending the rules on the outside. Bandito threw a couple of high-risk moves into the outside. He hit a shooting star press in the ring, starts to build momentum, got a very close 2 count there. It looked like he was going to win right there. But Bandito got another very close pin towards the end with a crucifix bomb. Roosh gets an even closer call moments after that. Roosh sets up a table on the floor. Bandito does a somersault plancha to the floor through the table. Both men just got back in the ring at the count of 19, of course. It's a 20 count in Ring of Honor for being out of the ring. Roosh started to get a few cheers here, but the majority of the fans were definitely still behind Bandito. Bandito hit a fall-away moonsault slam off the top rope, and he hit his finisher, the 21-plex, which of course is a slingshot German suplex, but Roosh kicks out. They said on commentary that Roosh was the first person to ever kick out of that, and I don't actually recall anyone off the top of my head kicking out of it, so it may actually be factual, but they say that a lot, but I believe that may have actually been accurate in this case. Of course, Roosh, because he is getting cheered, does the heel thing, and he tries to unmask Bandito, but Bandito does a victory roll, and we have a new Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. I cheered so damn hard, I actually scared the crap out of Mrs. Crossfire, because I was just like, yes! And she was just like, well, I'm just like, my bad, I'm excited. But before Bandito even gets a chance to celebrate, he is attacked by the rest of LFI, and we go off air with a half unmasked Bandito clutching at the Ring of Honor Championship while laying on the ground. So again, a big congratulations to Bandito on the victory. Big pop indeed. I do really look forward to seeing what Bandito does with the championship. I'm hoping he will have a good few months with it. The promo shots that he got done with the title just look so right. But yeah, that will bring an end to the end of this week's episode. Again, Whether I have caffeine or not, I seem to trip over my words because I speak too fast. I'm doing it right now. I'm sorry, but thank you again to all of you who continue to show me support. I'm sending my love to all of those at Deathmatch Down Under. They've just had to postpone their July 17th show to August 21st due to lockdowns in Victoria. But those that are in the ACT area, Canberra, please head to the Belconnen Community Centre in 4 weeks' time on August 14th for ICW's biggest show of the year in Insane Asylum. Of course, that will also feature some CPW stuff as well. Every title will be on the line, so the link to that event will be in the description below. As always, so will the links for both my social media and merch. Please go to the Caught in Conversation Facebook page, which you can find in that link, so we can continue to boost interaction and make this even bigger, build together as a team. I can't do this without you guys. And if you've got the spare change, as always, please go buy a shirt so I can buy tacos. I am the essential John L. Crossfire, and you were just caught in conversation.